That's right, and it's welcome to Plato's Cave, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. Home to ideas, which are good. Ideas are good. Ideas are good. Actions are better. Actions are better. That's the truth. Well, the station is not actually beholden to anyone, so if you can donate, please do. If you've got the means, please. Any kind of currency, including crypto, is good, but you probably can't. And that's okay. I dig it. Everybody digs it because we're living in a world of crazy, and things are getting tougher for everyone. So tell people about the station. That's good enough. That is plenty good enough if you can. Tell people about the station, because one of those people might be able to donate. It's all good. Today is the 26th of September 2024. That's right. It's almost Halloween, and then it's almost Christmas. In fact, it's 2 months to Christmas.
Sure.
Huh? Well, 2 months, 3 months actually. Sorry, I lied to you. 3 months. October, November. Yeah, about 3 months.
Good
what?
grief. Mm-hmm.
It's nuts. Anywho, you can catch the cave on the air, on the line all the time, or on your smart device. So you don't have to listen anywhere, or listen at home on a great tabletop digital radio. But you know what? Archives are free. Another good reason to donate if you can, or tell people about the station. So you don't even have to listen to the station. You just go to the archives and listen to what's there. Listen to what you want, when you want. That's right. Before we start broadcasting at you in anger, which we will momentarily, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast, and for Mr. Danger.
It is the Dark and Jungle.
Sir, for myself, of course, the Narak people, and we very much like to pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future. A beautiful culture. Not one culture. People always make that mistake. I think looking at native or indigenous cultures as just this one thing, it's like this monolithic kind of occurrence. People have a really hard time wrapping their mind around. Wrap your mind around this, boy. Wrapping their minds around the fact that there were in North America scores of nations that populated the North American continent. Similarly, there were scores of different nations in Australia with their own language, their own culture. That's
Hundreds,
the common,
actually, yeah.
Yeah, like it's like saying Europeans. There you go. Right now, you can say Europeans, and you wouldn't be wrong, but you'd miss the finer nuances, such as Germans, Italians, Spanish, etc., who, yes, they're all European, and all of the languages are related to each other, yeah, but they're not all the same. And it's the same for the indigenous people. We just paint them with one broad brush. Yeah, Aboriginal. Yeah, no. Yeah, North American First Nations people. Yeah, no. And if you look at Africa, jeez, look at Africa. I mean, the variety of the peoples is overwhelming from the north to the south, from the east to the west. Completely different racial types, different kind of features, languages, skin colors, etc., etc. So you can't just say, African, Aboriginal, American Indian, which is, of course, complete nonsense anyway. But yeah, it seems like people's the funniest thing for me, that's a recent thing. Back in the 80s, every Asian tourist was believed to be Japanese, irrespective of where they actually came from. So it's hilarious, and I live smack bang in the middle of a cultural melting pot here, which is pretty cool. But I go to Cabramatta a lot. Cabramatta here in Sydney is where a lot of the Vietnamese community, but generally speaking, a lot of Asians, settled and have shops. And before that, it was, excuse me, people from the Mediterranean. There's still a lot of people from the Mediterranean there, but it's just a huge mix of people, right? And I see Asian-looking people, right, talking to each other in English because they don't speak each other's language, right? They want to order a certain dish, but they can't order it in the language that the person sells it in, because they don't know that language. You know, a Chinese person speaks whatever dialect they're speaking. The Vietnamese person speaks their language. Then you Cambodians, yeah, you got Laotians, you've got again, you know, people from Burma potentially. I mean, there's just a plethora of languages that are spoken, and none of them are the same. They're the same. They're just different. I mean, even their writing is completely different. Right? Yes, there are cultural artifacts that are common. Yeah, you know, Chinese, like the lunar calendar, for example. Right, that's common for most of Asia, all of it. No? Common artifacts, like in Europe, everybody pretty much celebrates Christmas, but not everybody celebrates Christmas or Easter at the same time. Orthodox Christmas and Easter are different from Catholic Easter and Christmas, right? We forget that these differences exist elsewhere. We paint this picture of a homogenous culture in Australia, especially, where all Aboriginals. No, stop.
I want my Esther chicken.
I want my what was it? Yeah, it was chicken. There was something else as well. Oh,
that's
we
right.
Did a whole we did a whole show.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll do it again.
It's called Esther. Yeah.
We will definitely do it again, because again, people don't understand the origin of most festivals, right? I really like to understand what something means and where it comes from. I get a kick out of it. And then I like to tell people they're wrong. That gives me even a bigger kick. That's when I was younger, not so much now. Dave, I tell you what, I've been watching a lot of stuff when I had time, that is, and I came across Michael Tellinger's stuff as well, and he talks about a whole bunch of different things and very interesting stuff. We should try to get him back on the show one of those days.
I saw your comment.
Yeah, and I do want to delve a bit deeper into the Tartarians and what went on there, and this whole
on that video he shows the document in which was a FOIA release from the CIA, and it is an instruction to rewrite the history, to eliminate Tartaria.
And it's easy enough to it's actually easy enough to do that, to be honest with you. Right?
Yeah.
If there's this great movie, it's called Fatherland. Rutger Hauer is in it, and it's set in 1962 or 1963, I can't remember. And essentially, the premise of the movie is the Nazis or Germany won the war. And they came to an arrangement, with England and France and America. So, I mean, the war's over. There was a peace treaty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is 20 years or so after the war. And he's actually a police officer. Is what he is, right? An actual detective, right? It's really well made and high production value as well. So if you can watch it, go ahead. Fatherland. But the point is this. Nobody knows about the Holocaust in Germany after the war. Once the peace treaty was signed, etc., and whatnot, with the Allies and the war came to an end, that part of history had been completely blotted out. So the German people had no idea that actually went on, right? And the movie essentially is this police officer finding out what happened in World War II and the concentration camps and things like that, and Hitler is still alive. He's an old man in his 70s or 80s, even something like that. Trying to build an international reputation for Germany, etc. And it's fascinating how it all unravels, and he finds out the truth, and he goes, "Oh my God, this is because this is not the self-image he grew up with, right?" Because no one ever talked about it. It just didn't exist. So that in Stalinist Russia, in reality, he killed millions, if not tens of millions, of his fellow people. Stalin, that is. But nobody really talks about it. It's not really part of history. And if the children don't learn it from their parents or grandparents, then 2 or 3 generations on, they don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I guess that's another reason why we still talk about 9/11 and things like that, Dave and I, because there's now a generation of people out there that were born after. They're now in the workforce, right? They finished their studies, might have finished their military service even, and they're now out there in the world working. And they've never known a world before 9/11. They probably believed the story that they were told. And why do I talk about this? Well, to Dave's point, it is not that hard to completely obliterate a fact from history. And I give you a simple example. You guys say, that's impossible, Mikey. That's crazy. It could never happen. I'll give you two examples, actually. Two. One is my favorite, which is, of course, Göbekli Tepe. And the 90% of Göbekli Tepe we haven't unearthed yet.
Mm-hmm.
No idea. Who did it? No idea. What were these people like? Don't know. What language should we speak? What did they look like? No idea. Don't know.
And
don't know anything about them. Nothing.
And what does
Zero.
it mean that we've found it?
Yeah.
That question's not answered.
No. But we don't know. No, we know nothing about these people at all. Nothing. Zero. And but they were there, right?
And why would you intentionally bury it?
Yeah. There's no written record of these people that we know of, at least, anywhere. Nowhere. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. That's number one. Here, this is evidence. This item number one. Please enter it into the official record.
Mm-hmm.
2. The Empire of Carthage, a city in North Africa where we don't know how big it was. We don't know how big was the Carthaginian Empire. We don't know. We know they were traders. They were, probably related to the Phoenicians, probably. North Africans, so they were probably, Negroid or Arab, possibly. We think. We don't know. They had war elephants, right? So, they clearly went deeper into Africa than just North Africa because there are no elephants in North Africa. They're all below the Sahara.
Well, was the Sahara there at the time?
Well, at the time of the Roman Empire, it wasn't quite as it was today. In Egypt, funnily enough, Egypt was the breadbasket of the Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for a second. Egypt was the breadbasket of the Roman Empire. But all we know about Carthage comes from the Romans. There are no independent or, God forbid, Carthaginian sources that we know of, or that I know of. If someone knows about them, please let me know. That talk about Carthage. Everything we know about Carthage comes from the Romans. So they can tell us whatever they like. See? You see how easy it is to lose a whole people?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got these artifacts and monuments all over the world, massive. And we talked about this at length on the China Set Out and all that, and you're aware of it. You've seen them. And even if you don't subscribe to the theory that they're all connected somehow, someone had to build them. Who? We don't know. Not really. I mean, we look at what these people did, right? I mean, astounding stuff. And they clearly must have had some inkling as to the electrical or piezoelectrical properties of these stones they work with, right? Because if you apply pressure to quartz or a piezoelectric stone, it's called the piezoelectric effect. The pressure on the stone will produce electricity.
That's crazy. Where you've got your lighter to light the barbecue.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Not the lighter for cigarettes with the little rolly top. That's a flint based. But the other one, which is the clicker. That you click, and that's actually a crystal, quartz crystal. You're pressing against it, and it creates that zap of electricity. It's marvelous.
It's nuts. And we say, oh, so what's rocks? So what? Stone. Big who? It was just a stone. Well, the funny thing is this.
Is it?
we are the material we rely on the most for these days, pretty much anything is silicon. Now, what's silicon? Just little pieces of rock. It's sand. It's really what it is, okay? And silicon, which has got it's highly conductive, it's extremely versatile in computer components, etc., etc. Now, in my opinion, we've reached the end of the silicon usefulness.
That's right. Graphene is next.
Yeah, graphene, nanotubes, all that stuff. Absolutely. Maybe even holographic computing. Look, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the point is, we do? We work in silicon. What are these big blocks of rock, if not silicon? Right? And silicates. And essentially, quartz especially, quartz is highly conductive. And like I said, if you press it, right, this is really crazy, but if you press it, if you apply pressure to it, it produces electricity. Now think about this for a second. Now we think we're wonderful and we've invented the steam engine, which is pretty cool. Don't get me wrong, that's pretty good stuff, right? And then we dug up, coal and oil and gas, and we burned that to essentially create internal combustion, just like in a way the steam engine, kind of, sort of. And even our nuclear power plants are still steam engines. But what if a culture went a different way, completely? And they came upon, be it by accident or scientific method or whatever, upon the piezoelectric effect.
Yeah.
They would never look at fossil fuel. It'd be completely pointless. They would skip that. They would go straight to electricity. And the truth is this, everybody, we're not addicted to oil or gas or coal. We're not. We are not. The thing that we can't live without anymore is electricity.
That's right.
We
Those
cannot
electrons.
Yeah, 100%. And how you get them moving is irrelevant, as long as you get them moving, right? Somehow. And if it's the piezoelectric effect, so let it be the piezoelectric effect. There's another really it's called the when you bring two plates together very, very close. This is called the
I know. It's called the thing without the grayling.
What's it called?
The closer you press them together, more quantum energy is released.
That's correct, and it's called. I can't think of it.
I thought you were googling it. I was giving you some time to Google it.
I'm looking as well. No, but the point is, in nature there are these, and magnetism is another thing, right? If you could create a machine that made use of the magnetic force, right, in a way as to run things. You give it a push, but then it keeps running, because of its own momentum.
The only thing that we need for that to work is a non-magnetic magnetic insulator.
Yes.
That's it.
That's right.
I remember, and I'm going to say this again, and I know that it's all disappeared off the internet now, but I was chatting with a guy who had made it. He'd made a material that was non-magnetic, so it didn't stick to your magnet, and it was an insulator of magnetic fields. And he proved it with those sheets. Those. It's like a thin film.
It's the Casimir effect.
Casimir, there you go, and you can get it.
Casimir.
And he proved that that's what he made. Somehow, it doesn't matter how, but it's all gone. And I bet that's turned to military. So you can, if like a water wheel requires the pressure energy of water falling over a distance, that's how it works, right? Well, instead of falling, you could push, and if everything was pushing against it like a wind, and those little kids things, you fold a piece of paper, pin it to a pinwheel, and you blow it, it becomes a fan blade. Well, exactly the same as that. The force, instead of being wind, would just purely be magnetic force and opposing force, and it would push it away. And that's it. You could make yourself a water wheel, but magnetic.
Yes.
And that would be enough power for everybody on the planet to be able to have something even tiny enough in a watch. Could you imagine? You could have a megawatts of electricity at your own house. A container-sized thing would be enough to run 2 streets worth of houses.
Think about that for a second.
It's we are governed right now by the amount of kilowatts, or let's call it, kilowatts will do. It's just an amount of power we can carry around.
It's a different way of looking at the world. But see, the thing is, we have been given the narrative that we all work towards. But that's what we have, right? We all given pretty much the same narrative, and that's okay. And it varies here and there, and different people have different narratives slightly, but overall it's a very similar narrative, especially now in the age of globalism, right? And is it the right narrative? Well, no, clearly it isn't. It's a narrative. It's a way of looking at the world. It's not the way of looking at the world. It is not. And that's really important to understand.
It's the way that they've wanted us to look at the world.
Correct.
It's all by design.
It is.
And Mekki and I have talked about inventions that get deleted from history. They're made, whooshed away, never to be seen again, and they're used by someone else, not us, because they don't want us to have them. And our biggest concern is the climate, electric vehicles, and using fossil fuels. And while we watch the mega rich create rockets to bugger off to another planet.
Well, yeah. I mean, now bear in mind though that those mega rich, they're not actually read in. They're just peripheral to the actual happenings. And because
they're the
real
public
mega
rich.
Yeah. Because the thing is, and I believe this. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I know it sounds nutty, but I do believe that there are space programs, and they are already under. Like we already are elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the hidden. I know what it sounds like. I really,
because it's a secret space program.
Yeah, it's bigger than that. It's not it's not just. They're 300 to 400 years ahead of us.
That's right.
Just again, I know I spoke about this before. Look at where we were. Let's say 400 years ago in the 1600s, for argument's sake, right? The Spanish were still the preeminent naval power in the world. Okay, there was a war raging in Europe, the 30 Years' War, Protestants against Catholics. The New World, as they called it, had been discovered but was nowhere near colonized. The Australia had been discovered by the Dutch, believe it or not. But the English weren't anywhere near it. It would take the English another couple hundred years to get there. Antarctica hadn't been discovered yet.
Yeah. Although there were maps from a previous era.
Yeah, well, there's that. No one had been to the North Pole. There's no satellite communications. None of that, right? I mean, people. The height of technology was. I'm not joking. Were carrier pigeons, right? And that's where people were, and that's just how it was, and it's hard for us to understand and imagine it. It really is. I get it. I understand that. Don't get me wrong, but that's where we are now in comparison to, those that have the tech well beyond us, well beyond us, right? In fact, the tech that they have, and we see it. That's the thing. We all see it. Not every day, but we see it all the time. And all those UAP and UFO sightings.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them, but I reckon a goodly portion of them are us. And I think
the Tic Tac is us.
Yeah, completely. I agree with Dr. Greer on these things, 100%. I think he makes a very cogent argument, and it's sensible to think that way as well. And very little else makes sense if you look at the vastness of the cosmos, because the cosmos is vast. You can stand on your head, but it's a huge thing, and we seem to forget that, and then we say, oh yeah, everybody will come here eventually. Sure, of course, extraterrestrials could have come here. Absolutely, I believe they have, and I believe they're still here. But they've been here for thousands, tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of years. It's a long time for these things to have occurred, right? And absolutely, is it something that we should and need to contemplate? Otherwise, we can't understand. We can't understand the world as it is. It's not possible for us to understand it. Because if you look at the world through the filter they've allowed you, like the history they teach you, the science you're allowed to know, Oh yeah, the galactic, the intergalactic speed limit is the speed of light. Okay, really? Well, then you shouldn't have told us about quantum mechanics, really, right?
Yeah, that's kind of false, but that's all right. Yeah, you're right.
And it's really up to us to ask the questions and say, hey, what is going on here, and how come this doesn't make sense? And I know a lot of people don't like that. And people are comfortable, right, Dave? I mean, people are comfortable with their lives, and they think, why do I have to worry about that? Well, the reason you have to worry about it is because this is fundamentally part of your existence. You are living in this world, but you're not told even a fraction of the story. Not even.
Well, it doesn't matter to the home, work, and shops triangle. For 100 years, Meki, we've been tied to it.
Yeah.
Tied to the home, work, and shops. The shops is where you get your stuff. You come home, or you go to work, right? They're the only places you really go. And that little triangle, if you're given any information that is for outside of that triangle, then it can burn people. I don't mean literally, of course, figuratively, sure. Oh, but not by the traditional usage of the word, not the literal equals figurative one. No. So this, by showing people the news for things that are outside those three things, they go, oh, well, that's just happening over there. Should it matter to me? Not really. And for the most time in the last 80 years, things, except for the big wars and some misbehaving banks and people around and, the top echelons, our day-to-day didn't change. It really didn't.
No.
The COVID thing was pretty big, sure. That affected a lot of people, and it changed the home, work, and shops triangle. It stopped us from doing anything outside of that. We were basically home and shops.
Yeah.
And in some people, the worst case scenario was it was only home. They couldn't even go to the shops or get anything from the shops in their severe lockdowns, just being cordoned off. So, and I watched this, Meki, and I watched I watched so much news. I don't know. I think I could go onto a game show about news of the day. I just think about this as it is basically entertainment to keep us in a specific kind of mental zone.
Oh, completely.
Where we don't ask questions, we believe what we see, and the worst still, we don't complain about change.
Yeah.
It's to pacify us.
We're given, actually, yes, to some extent, but you know what the funny thing is? We're given just enough struggle to think that we have agency.
Oh,
yes. The thing is this. The thing is this.
Purchase on it, Nicky.
Sorry?
We have purchase on it.
Yeah. We have just enough to give us the illusion of being able to determine our fate. Just enough, right? The union movement, and then you've got the class wars. You've got rich versus poor. This inequality is engineered.
Mm-hmm.
It's engineered inequality. The world has enough for everybody.
Yeah.
It has enough for everybody. Even now, with 8 billion people, there is enough of everything for everyone. But we don't live like that, do we? No, we don't.
Oh, I've got a story related to this.
Oh?
You know how we had the bird flu going around the planet, and we had to kill all the chickens? Millions!
Yeah.
Hundreds, maybe thousands of millions of chickens around the world we had to kill. Now, in Adelaide, South Australia, if you will, is the tomato growing capital of Australia.
Oh, yes.
And there is now the tomato brown rugose fruit virus called, and it's on the screen for those people at home, TOBRV or FE. Now, there's a farmer there who has such an extensive covered, right? It's climate controlled. It is, it's cut off from the world. It's in its own plastic bag, yeah. And yet, they asked him to dump every single plant of his and destroy it all. And he goes, it couldn't have spread anywhere. And he goes, I think they might have brought it in, right? There seems like there's an excuse to rob us of food. It just seems that way. My tinfoil hat is tingling with excitement over this. I can't say it's real. I can't. But to kill all the chickens, to start destroying fruit that seemed to be good enough, it wasn't, according to the farmer himself, it wasn't affected by the virus. They had no real proof that it was affected or had spread to all of them. But, there you go. He's got to destroy everything, cleanse the entire, he's got like maybe 10 acres under roof. It's huge. And he's got to destroy it, clean it all, cleanse it, and then be proven that's okay, then replant again. The cost would be astronomical. It's almost like he has to shut down just to support it.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the terrible, one of the side effects is that maybe the main effect, he has to let go of a whole bunch of people.
Well, that's true. That is
true. This is the biggest grower, by the way. Not just a little guy, just eking out a living. This is one of the biggest growers in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, okay, that's pretty big. Yes, yes, it is.
Can't even imagine how it got in to its environment.
Look, we're living in a dynamic world, right? I mean, things happen. Even the best.
He's got like the data centers. He's got the sticky floor, separated air conditioning, right? Yeah.
Even the best biosecurity is not going to allow you to be completely immune.
No, that's true. Yeah, totally. Remember, we had the bee problem. We had to kill all the bees.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we are very far from everywhere, so it takes a long while for stuff to get here. So lucky us in a way, right? But it does get here because I mean, there's also, no offense, but there are lots of muppets and morons out there that smuggling food.
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, every day.
Because they think it's the right thing to do. Or
raw chicken.
Oh jeez, yeah. Don't get me started on that.
I watched Border Security Australia. If you've got any opportunity to have a look,
that's hilarious. Actually,
at a water, like it's an island. We live on an island, and the only way in and out is by this method. It's not. There's no land bridge, right? No one's coming across with that. And you could call them Muppets. I think triadons is another way of putting it, because I think they do know, but they're just, we'll see, right? It doesn't matter. The fines are minuscule. I reckon if they increase the fines to at least 10 or 100 times more, that might start to deter people, but otherwise, no. Or actually, no, I'm kidding myself. It won't stop them, will it?
It'll be it's highly unlikely. I mean, there will always be something. And I just recently realized that the cocaine business in Australia apparently is worth billions. I had no idea that it was that big. But apparently that's the kind of.
And did you know that they followed it via the sewerage?
Yeah. Oh no, that's in London as well. Yeah, they forget how much people actually how much passes. Let's say just how much passes through their body.
Well, they started with with COVID. They were detecting where the virus was through sewage because it's still alive, and that's when they started having. Wow, look at this! A lot of illegal drugs in this. Wow, and they kept following them upstream, so to speak, until they got to small towns and went. The town is too small to support a population of this much drug use. Who is it? It must be everybody. Hilarious, just hilarious.
It is.
What you find out when you look at the data, I think that's the biggest surprise. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. I have to tell a story, Mickey. We did, from a data perspective, it's very funny. I won't name who it is, but we put this technology in that looks at all the packets going through the organization, and the results after 1 week was so extraordinary that. And now, does everyone know what the 404 error is? So it's, website not found, right? Something's not found. There was 1 point something billion 404 errors on the network.
That's crazy.
Yeah, crazy. How? It's like, what? What's looking for something continuously for a week to get that high a number? That's round the clock. In fact, when you start doing the maths in your head, it's like, that must be all the traffic on the network. Hilarious. It was hilarious. Unbelievable. I won't say. I promise I'll never say who it is. And you've got to think about, Mickey, when we've spoken about the internet and what its real purpose is, it's military. And we get to use... Conceived, yeah. It's how it was conceived, yes. And the most downloaded thing was Game of Thrones, right? And they could watch all this telemetry. There's got to be a big room somewhere where they're seeing all the files that are going. They know all the hashing, and so they know what the files are because of the hash for it. That's the basically the sum of all of the data all added up, and there's an algorithm for that. So they knew. The makers of Game of Thrones knew that they were the most downloaded or copied, illegal file being sent around. As soon as the show aired, it's out there. Everyone's copying it and having a look. They knew what it was that was being pushed around on the internet. But when you think of what the internet really is, it's military. It's the largest, and I know there's tech that's moving away from it, but to say that the internet is for our purpose, no.
Visualize it this way. So our internet, let's say, is the size of a really large 75-inch TV. That's the area of our internet, right? Like the publicly accessible ranges that you see every day.
Yep.
Okay, that's a big screen TV. That's how big it is. The area. The military internet and the dark web, which is sort of an addendum, kinda, is the size of let's say
football
LA.
stadium.
The area size of LA.
Okay.
That's about the size comparison between the two. And that should give you some idea what the internet really is about. Okay. And maybe bigger than that yet, because again, we're talking about the deep government, the deep government.
Totally.
It's really the deep state. Sorry, that's what I meant. Deep state, and then trillions of dollars in completely untraceable budgets. I mean, trillions.
Yeah.
But that's just the states. That's just the states. Well, how do the Rothschilds spend their money? Is what I want to know. I really do. I want to know.
Well,
So
maybe they could throw a little bit our way and invest in Revolution.radio and Shiny Star and Plato's Cave for that matter.
They'll do it tomorrow, Dave. That's what's going to happen. It's first thing in the morning.
I did send Becky some screen grabs of a conversation that I had with someone pretending to be a Rothschild, which was really funny because they weren't even on the family tree. Wasn't that funny? They didn't even choose someone that you could Google.
Yeah, that's just bad research. That's all I can say to that.
It's terrible.
Just put a little bit of effort into it, guys. That's all.
Come on with your scamming. Hey? Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
And very funny, Mickey. I got a call. I have to tell everyone this. I got a call today, and it says unknown is the caller ID, and so they said, I want to, is this such and such? And they said my name, and they said, but because this call is monitored, what we have to do is we have to ask you to give me your name, address, and birth date. And I said, well, that's really unlikely. Well, why is that? they said. And I said, well, because...
I'm not a moron?
I said, this is an unknown number. You've cold called me. I don't know who you are. And she said, I said my name and I said where I was from. I said, yeah, but when you said where you were from, it's not an Australian agency. Yeah, it's just not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. Can you give me a website to type in? Then they said some string of letters and it's like, no. I said, look, if I get home and there's an email and I'll read through it carefully, and she goes, why are you being so evasive? I said, do you understand that you've cold called me and now you want my details? No, I'm not giving you any details at all. Oh, I understand your hesitancy. Do you? Well, I don't think you do because I work in security. Do you? Oh, right. So is there a text? She goes, oh, I sent you a text message. I don't care. Does it have the number I can call for the actual government agency? And this kept going.
See, at this point, Dave, I'd ask him what they're wearing. You know, that's just me, though.
And then I go, how did she get my number? Was it on the toilet wall for a good time? Is that what it said?
Oh, you've been following me.
And
He's my stalker.
Are you my CIA handler?
Oh.
And my daughter's in the car, and she's looking at me like, I don't understand why Dad's not, like, to herself, why Dad's not giving the information. And then I started to explain it out loud to the caller, and she's like, yeah, she's nodding her head, and it's like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you anything.
No.
And apparently it was real, but it was so unconvincing that it was, like, I found out later it was real. And I just, wow, how can you have a government agency that's a bunch of pork chops? Actually, no, I'll retract that statement.
Wiser words were never spoken. All right? No, but having said that, Dave, this is the worst way of contacting someone these days.
By telephone,
you know, like getting a cold call, and even if the information seems to be reasonable or whatever. Mm-hmm. No way I'm going to give you anything.
That's
nothing.
Right.
You get nothing from me.
Is this like a secure channel?
Secure channel.
The what?
Have you
I thought you would read my secure phone. Oh no, that would get you on a list, wouldn't it?
Oh, not necessarily.
Oh no.
Tell me a list you're not on yet, my friend, and I'll give you a hearty laugh. We'll both laugh and then just move on.
Oh, that takes me back. See, my father asked me one time, Mickey, and he said, you know what? You don't want to go overseas anytime soon, do you? And I go, no. Oh, good. And he hung up. That was the only thing he asked me. And I later found out that he was attempting to imply that I might be on a no-fly list because of the show. And, well, you know, I've got... I've really... I suppose I don't think there's a reason for a no-fly list because, you know what, who am I? Tulsi Gabbard? Right? Getting searched every 5 minutes every time I take an internal flight. I always end up getting the bomb search. All my stuff is, you know, I'm set aside, and they go, oh, I know you've gone through the thing, right? The metal detector, yeah, but now we're going to search your bag. You're going to swab it for explosives. I don't have explosives. Like, is it on my record or something? What's the story here? Oh, can you take your shoes off? Sure, we'll scan them, shall we? I heard the funniest comedian say, as soon as they say that, just start taking your pants off. Just take your pants off and put your pants on the thing and make it go through. He said, this comedian says, really funny, he says, he did it, and then the people behind him started doing it.
Of course.
And then they're all going through the scanner without pants on. It was hilarious.
Yeah. I might just do that for my next business trip. So, what you doing? Oh, don't be jealous. It's just what God gave me.
I was asked to this last time, so I thought it was just a thing.
The thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a thing.
I mean, it makes no difference to me, brother. It's all good. Hey.
Because they've got the X-rays now, right?
Oh, they got all the rays. You got all the rays, buddy. X,
All
Y,
the
and Z.
rays.
That's what they have.
Yeah.
You know that in German it's not called X-rays, it's called a Röntgenstrahl. Röntgenray. You know why?
No.
Because the guy who invented it was named Röntgen, Dr. Röntgen.
There was no X in his name?
There was no X in his name. No, I think they just didn't want to use Röntgenstrahl because he was German.
Yeah.
Yeah. X-rays. What's an X-ray? I mean, what does it even mean? It's like Elon Musk was time traveled and
X.
said, I'm going to call it Röntgen. Twitter.
That's what
I
happened.
call it X. Everything's X. I reckon he's the guy. He traveled back in time and he put the X on every treasure map there is. It used to just be like the treasure point. It was called treasure point. Now it's just called X. X marks the spot.
X
not treasure
marks
point.
the spot.
I spit on your treasure point. That's what happened. There you go.
He hasn't gone back in time yet, though.
Conspiracy problem. Yes, it's gone.
I know. He hasn't done it yet.
He's done it yet. Well, he has. See? Well, stop arguing time travel, man. No
I'm
one wins.
gonna quote a Janeway. Time travel always gives me a headache.
Yeah, that's right. What? It's so true. That is such a true statement. Time travel, depending, of course, on the nature of time. Because I mean, at this point, I mean, time travel, since we're on the topic, is conjecture as far as we're concerned. As far as consequences are concerned, does a new timeline get established when you travel back in time and change anything? Does it change your original timeline? Is it possible for the grandfather paradox to be a thing, or is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is probably the biggest question as to when it comes to time travel. What are the actual physical or reality implications of time travel? And the truth is, we don't know.
We don't know. That's right.
We
It's a
don't know.
theory. The paradox is a theory that if we and it's only related to a single timeline where there's no branches. Single and only one. That if you go back in time, you can't kill your grandfather because you would never been able to be born to go back in time to kill your grandfather. So, but if a separate timeline is created by the change, and those people who enjoy a good, what's it called? The guy who didn't die in prison.
The guy who did the Mandela effect.
Yeah, Mandela effect. So if for those people who enjoy a good Mandela effect, if a new timeline is created, then everyone on that timeline will only remember that timeline. I think the Mandela effect is proof that there's pockets that don't move or don't change.
It's the nature of this is interesting. You're absolutely correct in your assertion. I think we don't understand anything. That's number one. We really don't understand the nature of existence and reality. We just don't. Full stop. We've got some ideas and we think how it works on a macro level and so forth. Sure, but in reality we don't really know. But secondly, I think there is no order, no inherent order in what we call reality. I think it is messy, it's chaotic, it is highly volatile. It doesn't really follow any rules that we can discern. And what I mean by that is, I think these realities, and I do believe that we live in a Swiss cheese kind of book of realities where each page represents your particular reality, and all of these pages. You ever take a book into the bathroom and then you drop it into the bathtub? What happens is, I've done it a couple times.
Okay.
It's not good for the book. It's not good for the book. Okay? Let me just say that here. It's not good for the book. But when you then open the pages, all the print is not bleeding through,
From
but
one
you see
side
it through.
to the other side, yeah.
So not just one or two, but many pages start. You can see them as long as it's wet, right? Once it dries, it becomes completely unusable because it's just all warped. But the thing is, I think that's what we have here, and I give you examples of my own life all the time, and Dave has done similar things. And think about your own life, and think about when you think you lost something, or when you would have sworn you would have put it on the life of your mother that you put something somewhere, but then it isn't there, and then you look again and there it is.
I've had that. You've had that.
Yeah, I had some extreme cases of that with witnesses. With witnesses, right? Extreme cases of that, which make no sense at all. But nonetheless, there it is, right? And I think we're constantly moving between these pages, and sometimes bigger chunks move through, and smaller chunks at other times, right? And some stick and some don't stick, and there's no real rhyme or reason to it. And I think it has always happened, because you look at the past and the strange stories that you get, right? And the strange occurrences that happen, and all these wondrous things, and the green children and other things that they were chronicled. There was a chronicle at the time. They wrote it all down, and they said this is what happened, right? And really strange, very strange stories that have filtered, through the ages back down to us. And think of all the people that would have been locked away in insane asylums because they had fallen out of their own reality. And the bigger the gap and the bigger the transition, of course, the less you would fit in. I mean, if you're lucky, you speak the same language, that goes a long way. But if the custom is to eat live birds for breakfast, and if you don't do it, they throw you into the pit. Then you go, oh, well, that's not really my world, but I didn't know about that. Can I get another go? It's because you don't know what the customs might be. You just don't know, right? This is really interesting. In June, one of the leaders of the inhabitants of the planet comes to meet the new ruler, if you will, or the emperor important ruler, and he spits on him with water. Right? He spits on him, and he goes, "No, it's a blessing, because water is the single most precious thing to these people," which is, of course, sensible, because they're desert people. But it's a blessing. But the other guy took offense. If you don't know what the local laws are, or the local customs or traditions, and they throw you into a reality, chances are you might get killed, you might get locked up, or they might think that you're insane, and they throw you into an insane asylum. And I reckon that happens today, still, where people are thrown into insane asylum. It just doesn't make any sense. What they say makes no sense. They must be schizophrenic. And maybe there are fragments of reality that come with you, and maybe that's why you hear voices, because you can still hear your other reality. I don't know how it works. All I know is that our brain appears to be a quantum organism.
That's true.
Okay? And it seems to function, well, the latest research says, I don't know how they figured this out, but they said it seems to function in 11 dimensions. Okay, fine. I'll take your word for it. I can't prove it. I don't know. But certainly I get the quantum bit. Because, if our brain is extremely complex, and think about all the stuff it can do, right? And here we are then, right? Here we are looking at the world, not understanding it at all, in our conscious state, which I believe is the sleep state. We are right now, Dave and I, we're asleep. So are you. When you're asleep, I think that's when your actual self wakes and explores the multiverse. Okay? But again, and a lot of cultures, native cultures, would agree with me. That, Becky, that's correct. You got it in one. So it is a lot more complicated. Again, I go back to my first statement. We have no idea. None. We don't know. I love when experts come along and say, oh, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It's like, I gave this example before, then I'll shut up. But you got a rocket, a space rocket takes off from Cape Canaveral, right? And you are now a member of an alien civilization, and your job, you're the expert on exhaust fumes. You're the expert. You're the specialist. So you're looking at the rocket's exhaust fume, and that's all your civilization knows about. But you're the premier expert in your civilization that knows about this exhaust plume, right? And by that you deduct the nature of the cosmos, and the nature of the rocket, and the nature of the people that build it, and where it's going and where it's coming from. Of course you can't, because it's just a whole bunch of gases and water vapor and all that. And you can't really glean any information about anyone who built the rocket or why. You cannot deduce the nature of the civilization that built the rocket if all you know is the exhaust fume. And that's where you study. That's your field of study. That's what you're looking at. And it's like that fish. You got a fish in a tank. And I look at it from the side and I say, hey, Dave, there's this big long fish. It's like a 1 meter long fish. Look at that. And Dave, who stands at the head of the aquarium, all he sees is the face of the fish. What are you talking about? There's like the face of a fish here. It's maybe, I don't know, 10 centimeters. You're crazy, Mickey. It's not a meter. Right? And then a person, looks from a different angle, and another guy looks from over there, and they're all right. They're all correct. But nobody, and this is really the point of the rocket example as well, nobody looks at the whole picture. We don't have the capacity to see it all. We just don't. We look at this, and we look at that, and we might even look at the same thing at the same time. And there's this theory, as you know, Dave, they think
there's the music.
There's only one electron in the universe.
That's absolutely correct. You can take us out, Mickey.
Thank you so much for listening to us. This has been Plato's Cave. Hopefully we haven't put you to sleep, because it's morning time. And don't go anywhere. I'm sure something is going to come up here on the station. And most of all, Dave,
be safe.